Such written constitutions are a striking feature of this English and American political culture. So it should force us to consider why. Why write down what beforehand were unwritten rules, unwritten liberties? So if we were in a physical classroom right now, I'd ask you all, what are written constitutions designed to do? Why write down on paper the way our government is structured? And you would respond and say that a written blueprint of how our government operates is designed to place hurdles in the way of future attempts to change the way our government operates, to make it harder for future kings, presidents, prime ministers, legislatures, and citizens to enact fundamental change to the way we do things around here. This governmental blueprint, what the government can and cannot do, what does the king do, what does parliament do, what does local government do, what is the government's relationship with the church, all these are constitutional things that people can know even if they're not laid out in a written constitution. For example, you and I know not to wear a hat indoors, not to burp at the table, not to cheat on our spouses, and yet these are not written down anywhere. We know because we live in this culture and we know its codes. But here, in 1215, in 1689, and 1781, and 1787, and 1791, we see the English and Anglo-Americans writing down these unwritten rules of government, explaining on paper how our government is constituted. The fact that they wrote down and disseminated these unwritten rules reflected a realization that these rules were not being observed. The unwritten rules against centralization were not sufficient to stop rulers from centralizing. I'll give you a great example from the news illustrating this very thing. Why is it that bills have been introduced in different state legislatures, some of them have already become laws, telling schools they're not allowed to punish students for playing with toy guns, using their fingers to make a gun, or nibbling their sandwiches and Pop-Tarts into the shape of a gun? Just Google Pop-Tart law and you'll find them all over the United States. So why did legislatures start passing them all of a sudden in the 20-teens? Why were there no such laws before the 20-teens? The answer is that before the 20-teens, we all understood, even teachers, that it's perfectly okay to play with toy guns or guns made out of Pop-Tarts. It was an unwritten rule of how we live together, and we all knew it. The reason this unwritten rule is turning into a written rule, into a written law in so many states, is that schools have expelled kids for these actions. So citizens have seen evidence that many teachers and principals and school boards actually do not know this unwritten rule. So citizens legislate it and write it down and disseminate it to the schools so that future teachers will learn from the written law what parents and kids already know from normal life in our society. By the same token, every provision you'll find in those written constitutions, from the Magna Carta to the American Bill of Rights, reflects the experience of past governments violating that written provision. It used to be unwritten because we all understood that the king or government can't do this, this, and this. Since evidence has shown that we don't all understand this, we're writing it down in order to teach future rulers and future constituents what is and is not appropriate in our system of government. If you have any questions on this or on anything else, please email me. And be sure to read the exam guidelines document, watch the review session video, and study for the midterm exam.